Build an audience first, build a product later, build a community before you build a product. Just do sales and just do some marketing, get some pre-orders in. The advice on how to launch a business online is dime a dozen, right? Aruna, today in this video, I want to talk about how we navigated this at HowToCBC, what our insights into this topic are. And yeah, that's what I want to get started with. What do you think we did at HowToCBC? How did we get started?
Okay, cool. So even though it's you and me together at HowToCBC, I know that what we both did were different things, right? So I'll talk about what I did first when I joined HowToCBC. So the first thing I did was I built the product first. Why? Because that's what I knew how to do, right? So just for our audience, if you're wondering what our product is, the very first product that Gautam and I launched was a course on helping other people to design their own courses. So this is the product we're talking about. And in the very beginning, I built this product because I come out of academia, where I've been teaching in various capacities for over a decade at that point. And while teaching, I taught myself how to teach better and learned methods, pedagogy, college teaching, and all of that. So when Gautam came to me with this proposal that, hey, let's launch a course on naming, then it was but natural for me to just jump right into it and say, okay, I'll mock you up, one session, and let's build from there. And so happened that things progressed fast, and we both ended up working on it together and built the entire course really fast. And not just that, we got our audience also really quickly, right? So another subtlety I want to add here is that as far as today's topic goes, I did not build an audience first. I also definitely went nowhere near marketing, because at that time that we're talking about, I had no idea what both of these things really meant, because I had not consciously done either of these things. And I remember not even having any social media presence at that point. So yeah, so my thinking at that point specifically was also that if you want to sell something to somebody, you've got to have the product ready. So that's the mindset I brought when I came to HowToCBC. Now, obviously, you had been thinking about it for quite a while already, the idea of HowToCBC, and you were the one who came to me with, the idea that we should work together. So I want to put it back to you. What do you think you did first?
So it's a tough question to answer, but I'll give it my best shot, right? Because even though we launched HowToCBC in 2021, I had been toying with the idea of cohort-based courses since 2015. I was running my online education business back then, and me and my team, we stumbled upon the idea of cohort-based courses kind of organically, because we just wanted to deliver results in teaching online, and we just organically innovated our way into this CBC format. What we knew very clearly was that the CBC format was very effective in delivering results. That we clearly knew. And I did, in my own ways, try to explain to people that you should consider this format, but it didn't really gather steam. But when I saw Gagan Biani's tweet, the founder of Maven, right, in November 2020, announcing his platform for cohort-based courses, that was when I think the term was coined then, I realized that the format had finally gained mainstream attention and was poised for takeoff. And once it took off and everybody was talking about it, I knew that there would be several business opportunities that would emerge around the rise of this new format. And I was kind of excited because finally people were speaking the language that I'd been speaking for a while. I personally love the education domain, and I really want to spend the rest of my life innovating and solving problems in this domain. Like it really, gets my juices flowing, say. So I wanted to sort of ride the CBC wave, and this was my opportunity. And one among the many business opportunities that I identified in the CBC space was to launch a course to help other people build very engaging cohort-based courses. I wanted to start off by establishing a presence in whatever capacity possible, be it by tweeting about it, connecting with other people, announcing that I'll write a newsletter about it, and actually getting to it much later, attending events around cohort-based courses, joining communities. So that was what I was doing. So in some sense, it's like, I don't know if I was doing marketing or was audience building. What do you think I was doing? What is your take?
So I've actually thought a lot about what you did before I joined you. Of course, I have no idea. So you know very well that I keep asking you, what were those few months like before, right? Like, what were you up to? Because I feel like there's a lot of learning I had to do from you. And of course, now for the benefit of our audience also, you've spoken about what you did. And after a lot of talking to you, what I sort of abstracted the idea to is exactly what you said. You established presence. But what you did before that is you did a bunch of legwork, right? You first identified the area that you were super passionate about, and then you ensured that you were following the latest developments there. So Gagan Biani is not just nobody you were following. He is a co-founder of a successful company before that, and so you seem to have been having your ears on the ground about what is going on in this online education space. And then when you felt the timing was sort of good, that theses were about to take off and you had personal experience in already delivering them in the Indian market, what you did was you wanted to make your presence felt in the right circles, so to speak. And if I go back and see your tweets from that time, and also what you've shared with me about who you connected to, what sort of conversations you had, I can really see that you networked your way around this sort of group of people who you thought were at the forefront of bringing this revolution. Of course, it was the early days, so we all wanted to see how that would pan out. But certainly, you established presence. And from the perspective of how to CBC, what it appears to me is that you hadn't quite started audience building or marketing yet. You did something that was before that. That comes as a very important step before that. Like, you made sure that you made a lot of noise. A lot of people were able to, notice you. So you grabbed people's attention. And then once we got together, I feel like we slowly started doing things like think seriously about marketing. Of course, after our initial product launch, we started thinking about marketing and doing the whole audience building thing as we are doing now. So that's what I felt you did. Now I'm curious to ask you, like, if somebody is starting out now, what sort of advice would you give them if they're starting out now?
Yeah, interesting question, right? So I actually wouldn't say build an audience or build a community, build a product. I don't think that's what I would say. I would say, and in a descriptive manner, do the thing that you think has the most amount of leveraged based on your unique context. Yeah, that's one sentence I would try and give as advice to people who are starting right now. See, it may not fall under a category per se, but that it's as descriptive as it sounds. That's what I want to say. See, it could be something as different as fill out a form for an entrepreneurship grant because you're serious about doing something on your own, and some amount of money may help you sustain this team and do it for a while. So getting that money may be the most leverage thing that you can do. It could be getting yourself into an accelerator program with a half-baked idea because you're like, okay, I don't know. I know I'm aware of the fact that this idea is not fully formed yet, but I want to get into the accelerator with a half-baked idea. Let me maybe exemplify using in my case, right? The leverage thing that I did was to showcase my credibility in the Indian ecosystem. Like clearly explain to somebody what did I pull off in the online education context in the Indian ecosystem, and use that story. And by conveying that story, I got myself into the Maven Accelerator program. Now that gave me some visibility and positioning in a completely new market. I had not ventured into the US market or the Western European market before that. And there was no way I could just barge my way into it. So the Maven positioning really gave me that foothold or a pedestal to, and that was a leverage thing that I did, right? And I think the generic advice of just start tweeting about it, create content around it, and write newsletter around it. For some people it may be the most leverage thing they can do because they can't do anything else. But if you really examine, I think a lot of people, especially who are experienced in some sense, can actually come up with other options that might give them much more leveraged options. And I want to put it back to you, Aruna. I think I can say that you also, in some sense, did the most leveraged thing possible. And does it, like, at least I like to put it in that frame. And do you agree with it? Does it fit the model I suggested? What are your thoughts?
Actually, in hindsight, I would say that I also fit in your model, although I did it completely unconsciously. Right? I was not thinking of leveraging my experience and coming out with the product. I was not thinking of any of those things. However, in hindsight, that's exactly what I did, because the experience and expertise I had was all in teaching, course creation, and I remember that within the first week or 2 weeks, it was really easy for me to come up with the germ of an idea, sort of a syllabus, and then which we both worked on together to build into first a 1 hour session and then a couple of sessions. And that seemed to flow so naturally, right? I didn't know I was leveraging what I knew already or the experience I had, but that's what I did. Now, coming back to what you were saying about your advice that you would give somebody, not everyone's meant to build an audience right at the get-go. I would say that that advice would have applied to me, because if you told me at that time I actually had some anxiety around opening a social media account, I would have just spent days thinking of what should my Twitter handle be, right? Instead, when I didn't think about all of those things because I didn't know any better, I could just spend that time and do what I could do. And somehow, because you'd already set up the stage for us, we had this nice platform where we could both take what we had created and we could leverage again what Maven does, which is they were building an audience. So,
Right.
there were eyeballs on our product, and we went from there. So, yeah, I think.
There's one additional thing that I would like to say, right? While I was actually, I got myself into the accelerator program, I realized that one thing that I can leverage, in addition, leveraging my credibility and my shared equation with you, was to actually reach out and partner with you. So in some sense also, that was also a leverage thing that I could do from my end to as a needle mover for the next step for HowToCBC.
Exactly. And you said the right word, because I was thinking exactly of that. For some people, partnership might be the most leveraged thing they can do. Of course, ours is, very close partnership in the sense that we work together and we've continued to work together. We're co-founders now. But it is for individuals to find out what kind of partnerships they want. We can also say that HowToCBC partnered with Maven, basically got on Maven, right?
Yeah.
But definitely examining your strengths and your interests and the needs of the world and so on and so forth, and being creative about what opportunities you can leverage. I completely agree with you on that. And now digging a little bit deeper, what other sort of actionable advice would you give to people?
So this actually is, I didn't realize it earlier when I thought about this, but now I realize actually this is based on a framework called effectuation, right? Effectuation by Dr. Saraswati. The method is that you list down all the possible things you can do, and that includes your unique context, and it may include some things. Some of them may be very straightforward things that everyone can do. Some would be things that only you can do. Some of things would require, let's say, partnering with somebody, or may require a little bit of capital. Right now, list it down exhaustively. Post that, make a very subjective assessment on what among the listed ones presents the best outcomes in terms of the following factors. Right, just loose factors, realistic to execute. Right, you can't list down something that is nearly impossible for you to execute in your context, given the amount of capital and reach, etc., that you have. Go for the ones that you feel you have an unfair advantage. Right, for example, me partnering with you, I feel like I had an unfair advantage. There was already a shared trust between us that I was able to sort of leverage on to partner with you. Then go for likelihood of a step function improvement. Right, if there is one option that gives you step function improvement, go for that option. So do a subjective analysis and see what could be your most leverage opportunity, and go for that. That's what I would say.
Cool. And to add my 2 cents, Paisa, currency you like to it. Coming back to sort of the topic of today's discussion, if you're still wondering, okay, the question of audience building versus marketing versus product building, I'd say just a couple of things. One is that the ground root of business is that, yes, you need both an audience and a product. So clearly you have to build both at some point of time. So if you choose, based on everything that we've talked about today, if you choose to build an audience or do marketing, just ensure that you do the step before that, which is to do some research, find where you need to establish your presence and build your presence there, because that's important, presence, credibility. And so take your time to do this, invest some time. It will certainly not go waste. One more thing I'd add there is that if you choose to build a product first, then be very careful that you build a sort of prototype, a mock-up, and quickly start taking it out to your potential audience, right? And don't waste time necessarily perfecting it. We certainly did not waste time perfecting it. We immediately took it out to whoever would give us the time of day. And that real live human feedback is so very important to shape where your product goes, because ultimately it's going to be consumed by people and you want people to pay for it, right? So these are the two things I would say. And then I'd say, yeah, good luck with your journey, and let us know in the comments what other questions you'd like to get us to talk about, answer. And also, yeah, generally share your thoughts about what you think about today's topic. Well, thanks so much, and see you in the next video. Bye.